Welcome back to another edition of the Balas and Skene podcast. This is the post-Nebraska podcast. Five-time Big Ten champion Doug Skene here with me, former All-Big Ten guy, former NFL guy, offensive line expert, and he's in slimming mode here today. Is that on purpose? So you,
yeah,
just
trying to. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here, Balas. I think the audience knows I'm not the IT guy. I'm not.
You kind of look like him with those glasses, though. I'll just say, I'll be honest.
I'm not fooling anybody, man.
Come on, Dilbert. You got.
I can listen. I can break down combo blocking and zone blocking and all that fun stuff. I cannot tell you how to get technology to work properly.
Nobody gives a damn. Everybody just wants to hear your opinion on football. So, and you've done a hell of a job. Our numbers keep climbing. We appreciate you. So I got to be honest. After that Oklahoma game, I was really disheartened by a lot of things I saw up front. Two things now. It looks like Oklahoma might be pretty damn good, especially defensively up front in the front seven.
I told you.
You did, but we also said there were a lot of mistakes that needed to be cleaned up. And when you put two new guys in there, two new starters, and to rush for, I think it was 386 and 200 and something yards against Nebraska, high 280s. That's impressive. I don't care any way you cut it. And it seems to me, and Sharon was asked about it today, that zone blocking might be really one of the reasons for it on some of the big plays. Are you seeing more and more of that?
Well, certainly this whole season, with the exception of maybe the Oklahoma game, but I take that back. All right, so in the opener against New Mexico, and then in the Oklahoma game, there was still a lot of heavy power. What I used to say is 46, 47G, pull a lineman, pull a tight end, fill in the front side and power football, block down and kick everything out. That has gone by the wayside to a large degree. And yes, we've seen a lot more zone blocking. And in some ways that can be easier on an offensive line that may just be better at that. We feel more comfortable with it. But just as importantly, Balas, when you zone block, it's one thing to have your O-line doing those things, but you have to have the backs that know how to leverage your offensive line to create seams with zone blocking. What I mean by that is the offensive backs have to help your offensive line. So if I'm the running back, it's zone right. I have to take 3 steps. The reason that's so incredibly important is you've got to get the linebackers flowing to that front side of the play. So if it's zone right, if you're the running back, at least 3 steps before you're allowed to cut back the other way. You've got to get linebackers flowing. That helps your offensive line get up to the next level, because those linebackers have to make a decision. Am I going to fill front side? Am I going to come backside underneath? Either way, an offensive lineman who's zone blocking is waiting on someone to show up in his space. Who cares who it is? So the backs have to be just as in tune up front with their linemen when zone blocking. How's that different than gap blocking? Well, if I'm the back and we're going to run 46 power, I'm going to the B gap or I'm going to the C gap. Period. End of story. And so there's a big difference in the two blocking techniques.
Okay, there you have it. I was going to ask you to explain it for people. There it is. So, and these backs are seemingly doing it very well. When you talk about the backs and the offensive line being in sync, Justice Haynes is as good a back as I've seen here in a long, long time. And that's saying something. Yeah, Blake Corum obviously was here. You can go back to Tyrone Wheatley to get the top end speed, in my opinion. In fact, he was on his long touchdown run on Saturday. It was one of the top 5 top end speed runs in college football. And you know who the other one was? One of the other ones? Bryce Underwood on his quarterback draw.
Oh, yeah.
So this kid can kind of move a little bit, and it's probably good to use his feet. So, but Justice Haynes, man, what have you seen from him? This kid, to me, has the vision. He has the power. It was funny because I talked to Alabama sources when he transferred here, and they said, well, they got other guys they like better, and they pay the guys they want to keep, and so on and so forth. I would imagine they're singing a little bit different tune now because this kid is an absolute stud.
There's 2 things that, to me, jump out when I watch Haynes run, Balas. When he gets into traffic, his foot RPM goes up. His feet go faster. And that could be the little cuts or the balance that he's trying to keep as he's running through clutter or guys trying to tackle him. So that stands out right away, the increased foot speed. And then the other thing is when he does get in the open, unlike we've had some really good backs. You just mentioned Corum. But now when this guy's in the open, you can just sit there and say, it's over. It's gone. There's no one catching him. I've yet to see him get caught from behind when he's in the open field. The dude's got top-end speed like we haven't seen since Wheatley or some other backs, but it's been a long time. So those two things to me, I think, are great.
Yeah, they really are. And he has, even when a safety or a corner has an angle on him, man, he is, burning these guys. So pretty impressive. So you got to give the offensive line some props here. How are the tackles playing? Any better?
Well, I think overall, Balas, you mentioned, coming out of the Oklahoma game, we were kind of freaked out about how poor the offensive line executed in that Oklahoma game. And yeah, I don't think it was the greatest of game plans, and they were put in some tough spots. So where are we 2 weeks later? This offensive line is better. Are they great? No, we're not great, because I still see some things that need to be cleaned up, some pressures on pass protection. We still have some more push that we need to get at times at the point of attack. And that's a thing that can lull an alignment asleep sometimes. And I'm not saying that's what's happening with our guys now, but when you zone block, it's almost, you can get trapped in this basketball boxing out mentality, as opposed to knocking someone off the ball when you're more power gap blocking with your line mates. But overall, clearly better. We've got the home run balls, we've got these big plays, and they're doing very well. And then the other thing that's, obviously massively changed the rushing statistics is the quarterback is just finding the seam and taking it off himself. He's an extra running back, Balas. It just is what it is now. It's part of the offense. And he's awesome at it, right? And the other thing that I mentioned early in the season, in that New Mexico game, clearly Underwood, I know it probably makes the coach's heart skip a beat, but Underwood ain't afraid of contact.
No.
He's a big kid running down there, and he's not going to just take it, for some safety. He's going to deliver some blows. So that is all part of credit to the offensive line improvement since Oklahoma. So two things. They are better coming off the ball. They're more comfortable in some zone stuff. But also, I think this offensive coaching staff is helping them help themselves by putting them into some more comfortable situations. But they're not perfect yet, Balas. Like I said, I saw Evan Link, at least in one or two pass pros, get walked back. He's got to be more stout on the edge. And we had I think it was early in the game, there was a simple tackle twist in the middle where we just whiffed. There was just, it didn't get passed off. It was a miss.
Who's we? Which two?
Center and left guard.
Okay.
It was a Phobie and Crippen. There was just a simple interior tackle game. One guy went this way. It was just a crossing game. A defensive tackle and nose guard, sort of stunt twist kind of thing. And we didn't pass it off. We were way out of sorts. So clearly still things to work on. And that's not that hard to fix. You just got to get yourself in the right alignment. So yes, it's a check box. They've gotten better. Clearly, Sharon spending time down there with that offensive line unit paid some dividends, but they got to keep getting better and better. And so as long as they do that, this offense is going to be more impressive with the weapons that we have. Of course, I know you're going to talk about it in a minute here. The wide receivers.
We'll get there in a second.
The wide receivers are now on the clock.
They are on the clock.
That group, they got to pick it up.
Yeah, they really do. There was one pressure early when it looked like Guarnera was pulling, right? And they brought somebody from the edge. Did somebody get a missed assignment? Was that something where, because Guarnera had no chance?
It was not a missed assignment. I know the player you're talking about, number 15 from Nebraska, who's a good football player, was a called blitz. He had no responsibility other than blast off the edge. Guarnera, the right guard, was assigned to kick block him, to cross the assignment, or kind of like a play action, right? To show a run scheme that Michigan often runs. But because 15 was coming off the edge so fast, it was too late by the time his eyeballs adjusted. 15 was already in the backfield. Guarnera is taught to pull straight flat down that line of scrimmage, not with depth, because that's a giveaway that it's a pass. So if he comes out of his stance and goes right off the butt cheeks of his fellow linemen, that's going to look like one of Michigan's typical counter run power plays. And Nebraska just timed it up with a good defensive call, and it just is what it is. Sometimes that happens.
Yep, sometimes it does. One thing I wanted to really highlight today, and I talked to Biff Poggi, Michigan's interim coach, about this in the post game, because you could see it when the play happened. You didn't even need to see the replay to see that Greg Crippen had one of his best games in a Michigan uniform, and that he was responsible on at least two of those runs, maybe three, of opening those big holes for those backs. There was one he celebrated. He took out a defensive lineman, got to one linebacker who took out another linebacker, or maybe the safety, blocked three plays, and he was celebrating during the play. I don't know if you remember it, if you saw it, but just talk about just what you saw from him. They said he had a great week of practice. I was really happy for the kid because I know how much it matters to him. I told you before, he was crying at the end of that Ohio State game last year, how emotional it was, how emotional it was for him and how badly he wanted it. So I was really happy for him.
Yeah, really happy for that kid. He did a couple outstanding blocks, and the telecast there on CBS pointed it out on the one big run. But the difference for Crippen, and it's subtle, but if you know offensive line play, you can see it from a mile away. So he's responsible to snap that football, and then he's got to go to his left and help his left guard. The easy and poor habit that linemen can get into if you're a center guy and you're uncovered and you got to go help your left guard over here is to turn your shoulders and attack and help your guy with your shoulders facing the sideline. What Crippen did there, and more than one example, was he got over to help his lineman, but he did so with his left half of his body, his left shoulder. He did not turn his numbers toward the sideline, so that when he needed to get up to the next level, or when a linebacker wants to come and fill run, if my shoulders are facing this way, Balas, and you're coming this way, I have no chance. I can't help. But if I'm engaged to with my left shoulder and I'm watching and I'm feeling over here with my left, and I can keep my eyeballs over here on the right, when it's time to come off, I'm in position to do so. So he came over and gave good help to a phobia left guard, and then made his way up to the next level and got a hold of that linebacker because he kept his hips and shoulders mostly square up the field. And that is the subtle difference that makes or breaks big plays. And he did an outstanding job of it more than one time.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much, right, to chip that last guy. All you got to do is get a little bit of them. And if that back's going through that hole as fast as Justice Haynes was, man, that's all it takes. So
when he came over there, that one of the things that, you know, back when I played and certainly, you know, listening to other coaches, when you come over as an unblocked defense or an uncovered offensive lineman, and you're helping, so you want to get down in the soft area, right? Like at the defender's hip up to his armpit, because that's when you move people. If you hit him up high in the shoulder pad or, you know, up in the arms, the guy's going to kind of bend over. But if you don't move his hip and his midsection, he's not going to move anywhere. And if I remember correctly, he got low enough on that initial down lineman help, kept his shoulders square, then he bounced up to the next level. You get some sticky hands on a linebacker, which weighs probably 75 pounds less than you. And then you got a guy like Hayes. It's over. Just like that.
Yep. I'm really happy to see Jordan Marshall, too. I want to talk about that last drive. The last two drives, frankly, okay? Number one, taking 9 minutes off the clock. That looked like old-time Michigan football, kind of, because they were still mixing it up with the pass a little bit. Samaj Morgan, we've been on him. We'll talk about the receivers and the drops, but he made one hell of a play to get a first down on 3rd and 5. Give him credit for that. Some really nicely timed third and long plays where a lot of people might be saying, why the hell did you do that if it didn't work? But Chip Lindsey really had them mixed up. There was a 3rd and 10 where Justice Haynes broke a big one. Another play, a true quarterback run with Bryce Underwood that we hadn't seen, straight run. And really impressed with that last drive. That must have brought a little bit of a tear to your eye to get down to the 2. Now, they didn't punch it in, and I think Underwood Link missed the block, but Underwood probably could have kept going to the pylon, or if he waited for his block a little.
No. We're not going to go after Link on that one. I
Really?
remember the play. I know what you're talking about. You say Link missed a block. From what I remember, Balas, I remember seeing that, and I think I texted you in Stapleton. I was like, that's evidence of an inexperienced quarterback. If he just lets that lead block out there, Link, and there was someone else on the edge. There were 2 Michigan guys out there helping. He just rushed it a little bit. If he just lets that block develop for another half a second, he probably walks into the end zone.
Yeah.
But he's an impatient young guy. He wants to get in there. But in the future, I just remember it kind of reminded me of when Blake Corum was young, and you see other young backs. They're so eager to get up in the line of scrimmage, especially when you're zone blocking. Sometimes you got to let your blocker do his thing, and then you make a cut off of that. I thought Underwood had time to do it. Yeah, of course it could have been more dominant out there. Lane could have got on a dude and just smashed him in the end zone out of the back like the movie Blindside, right? But anyway, I thought that was more of a byproduct of just a little bit of lack of experience on Bryce's part. He'll learn from that. He'll be better. But I didn't think it was poorly blocked, and that maybe I'm missing something. But if it's the same play I'm thinking of, We could have walked in.
It was a third down play where they let him with a straight run. And if you go watch it again, it looks like Link wasn't blocking anybody. I'll be honest. At first glance, I agreed with you, and I thought he needed to be more patient, or he could have made it to the pylon if he just trusted his speed, which we know he has. So we'll go back and watch that one, and we'll come back to it. But that whole drive, again, really fascinating. And to close it out the way they did, you got Nebraska up front, Jordan Marshall in the game. I was so happy for him, too. He had the big touchdown run. But putting the ball in his hands and 2 runs for a first down that iced the football game, that's Michigan football.
Well, it certainly is, and that's the kind of drive late in the game that sucks the life out of the opposing sideline. Clearly, you could hear on the television that the stadium was feeling a little energy. People were excited. Quite honestly, we let them hang around in that game longer than we should have. A galactically stupid penalty gave them some life. Otherwise, we could have snuffed them out earlier.
The Hail Mary.
What's that? And the Hail Mary, yes. The pre halftime debacle of clock management. I've read your article about that one, Balas. I don't know, that one's just inexcusable. But the way Michigan finished, it was competitive. It was an emotional atmosphere. Michigan just calmly went down and got first downs, and that's how you suck the life out of somebody and you win the football game. It's not as exciting as winning on a walk-off, home run play or a kick or something to win the game. But it's, from an offensive huddle point of view, it is so gratifying to sit out there and get first down after first down after first down. And the opponents across from you can just see the level is just kind of dropping. And they just know, God, my chances of winning are just going down every tick of that clock. And it was great to see Michigan do that. We're going to have to do more of that, obviously, in the coming weeks.
But at least they did get a chicken sandwich on the way out. Chick-fil-A as well. So saw the boxes there. One of these days I'm going to steal one. Love the Chick-fil-A. So how demoralizing is it as an offense when you've got a quarterback throwing dimes? Here's the funny part, Skene. Bryce Underwood is 104th nationally in, I think, passing efficiency, if I'm not mistaken. And yet they're averaging 35 points a game. And I'm guarantee you his efficiency rating would be a lot higher if his receivers could just catch the damn ball. Michigan's got 2 guys in Channing Goodwin and Samaj Morgan who are second in the country in drops with 4 each. And that's being nice. I think there have been a few more. I thought really Goodwin should have had the one in the end zone. I thought that was a beautifully thrown ball off his fingertips. And so, but when you're an offense, I mean, you got to come back obviously to the next play, but at some point you got to say, man, guys, do your job.
Yeah, and you got to be careful about that, right? In the huddle or on the sideline, because it's not like these guys are dropping it on purpose. They're not doing it intentionally, but at the same time, man, the old rule, Balas. If the ball touches your hands, you're expected to catch it, and those balls have got to be caught. And so, that wide receiver group's got to pick up the pace. And Morgan made the great tough-ass play to get the first down late in the game. Credit to him. But in future games, it's not going to be good enough, those drops. And you mentioned about the passing efficiency with young Bryce there. I think it's a testament to the weapon that he is, that statistically he's not near the tops of college football passing stats. Quite honestly, I don't think defensive coordinators care. The dude's a threat. Mm-hmm. And he can sling that football. He's going to get more accurate. He's going to get more comfortable. He's going to have better touch on some of the shorter stuff. But, man, the lasers this kid can throw on the run is really unbelievable to watch. And, it's been so long since we've seen somebody with this set of skills, maybe never to the degree that he's got them. So, I don't know. To me, Michigan scoring points, this kid's producing touchdowns, and who cares what your stats are? I don't get the impression that Bryce cares. He doesn't seem like that kind of kid. So as long as the football team is winning, we're going to keep doing it.
And do you think there's any NFL scout that's out there saying, well, gosh, look at his rating and this kid, you know what? No, this kid would be talking to people close to it. They said if this kid was eligible for the draft this year, he might be a top 5 quarterback taken, if not higher, just on his potential alone. Because, yeah, I mean, and you look at that skill set and it's fun to watch. So
yeah, it is. Clearly, there's some passes where he needs to be more accurate to help his wide receivers. That's going to come. I mentioned some of the patience with running the football, letting your blocks develop, and then picking a lane that you want instead of hurrying things. But good grief, Balas. I know we're all impatient. We want him to be so perfect, so fast, but this is still his first season of college football. a year ago he was playing against Livonia Franklin High School or whoever it was, and it's a big difference out there. The kid went into Nebraska, which is a rowdy atmosphere. You've told me about it, and there's never a look on Underwood's face that makes you think this guy's probably got a little pee in his pants. No, that is not this dude. This dude is Mr. Calm out there, and it's for the rest of the guys in that huddle and for us fans watching. It's reassuring to know the guy taking the snap is calm and under control.
Oh, God, was he ever. And, in fact, Biff Poggi said that. He said there was never a doubt on that sideline led by him that we were going to win this game, even after the stupid Hail Mary when they didn't call timeout with 15 to 20 seconds left to make him punt the ball. You don't put Samaj Morgan back there. You just guard against the fake, and you let the guy punt the ball, and then you get the ball back, and you know what, or maybe the clock runs out after he kicks it, or you take one knee and you go to the locker room with a 17-10 lead. I knew damn well what was going to happen with 1 second left on the clock and the Hail Mary. The second that I saw he had time to throw, I'm like, this is a 50-50 proposition here, man. That ball got right there and terribly defended. They can say they had people down there, but you had a defensive end there getting 4 inches off the ground trying to knock it down too. And on top of that, just not calling timeout. That is a massive brain fart. This reminds me, and in some ways this team reminds me, you talked about the Brandon Hillman penalty that gave Nebraska life. Otherwise, that could be a blowout, Skene. Flat out, that could have been a blowout. Quit with the stupid shit, right? Stop it. It reminds me of the 93 and 94 teams that were so talented, but never could quite put it all together. That is going to lose you ball games, these stupid things.
Well, Balas, you know how you fix that?
No.
It's real easy to fix that. You know who fixes that?
The coaches?
The head football coach.
Right.
The head football coach fixes that with a discussion with his entire team and the whole team meeting room up there in the second floor of Schembecker Hall. The next time someone gets a dumbass penalty like that, I'm going to run you until you barf.
Yeah.
And then when you're done barfing, I'm going to run the rest of your team. This shit's got to stop, right?
That's just mean, Doug.
And so you just fix it. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Hey, if you want to do something to have an impact on your opponent, turn around and celebrate with your team. There's no reason to talk shit to the opposing sidelines when you got 9 officials watching you. It's just not smart. And that starts with the head football coach, his coaching staff, all the way down to the seniors on the team. No one does that anymore because it was costly in that game. It kept them in it. It gave that crowd life. It was a it was a turnover. It was bad throwing an interception or fumbling the punt. So you can't do that stuff. It's going to kill us against better teams. But another thought on that game, Balas, it shouldn't have been that close.
No.
We were controlling the line of scrimmage. We were walking their offensive linemen back into Raiola's lap with regularity. They had no answer on how to block us, and yet they hung around the whole game. Yeah. So I thought it was frustrating from that part. And Poggi said so. I told the team at the half, we're beating the crap out of these guys. And why is it 17-17? We were just owning them. Yep. Raiola was clearly rattled later in the game. He was throwing fast out of the pocket. He wasn't comfortable because he was going to get sacked for the 34th time.
Yeah.
And so from that point of view, it's like, man, fellas, you went into a hostile environment and won the game. But, man, it could have been a lot more easy street if you just take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do. So that part has to clearly be fixed. And hopefully Sharon sitting at home watched what you and I saw, which is some really great stuff to build on, but also some really dumb things that need to be fixed.
And that's why I picked them to lose, frankly. And this Nebraska team was a little worse than I thought, especially on the offensive line. I did not think that Michigan would have that level of success, but 2 things. Jayshon Barham on the edge is an absolute monster, right? Yeah. That is a difference maker when you've got that level of pass rush. And Derek Moore stepped up, too. He had a couple of pressures. 36 pressures, Skene, according to our Clayton safety, 7 sacks. Guess how many holding penalties?
0.
Now, I want to ask you something, buddy. Was that bullshit or what? And this reminds me of the early part of the Jim Harbaugh era when Michigan, everybody else in the conference had like 1.7, drawing 1.7 per game or something like that. Michigan was dead last and was an outlier. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm looking at that and saying, when you got guys like Maurice Hurst saying, dude, I get held, 5 times a game. How are they not? It's ridiculous. How are they not calling anything? How was there not a single holding penalty, especially with what you saw on that film on Saturday? That was ridiculous.
Well, what makes it stand out even more is you watch what does get called holding in our games and in other games in the Big Ten. They get called for holding that it's like, wow, that kid just got screwed. That wasn't holding, or just some stuff that didn't make any sense. I guess I would say, Balas, statistically, it's crazy. It's such a rarity to try to understand how we don't get holding calls against opposing offenses, and yet these penalties go on around the league, and it's the same Big Ten officiating crews. So why is it that Michigan can't seem to draw a holding call against this defensive line? I don't understand it.
Did you see it? I mean, it was pretty clear on film, right? Where
and the most obvious stuff is when if I'm an offensive lineman, I'm blocking and my hands are here, that's all fine and great. But when I'm over here, my hands, so you can see my hands up, but if I'm over here and I'm still hanging on and my torso is removed from your torso, that's holding. And other teams get called for it. We get called for it. Michigan's offensive line gets called for it. But apparently other offensive line can get away with that against the Michigan defensive front. I don't know. Maybe is this something that Sharon and his staff send to the Big Ten and say, hey, what's up with this? Why? I mean, you can just turn on the film and show clip after clip after clip. If the other teams are getting the calls, then we ought to be getting the calls too.
Yeah, I asked him about that, and he said, well, if they're just going to not call it for anybody, then, so be it. But I'm like, wait a minute. That's not the case, because you're negating a huge advantage for one team. If it were a couple holding calls, he said, yeah, they maybe missed a couple too on us. They missed a dozen probably on Saturday against Michigan. And that is an equalizer in games like that. And that's why if you go up to East Lansing, for example, I remember asking Lloyd Carr the same question in 2005, and he's saying, somebody's going to get hurt, man. This is crazy. They're being, and Sharon did say, man, it wasn't just our guys were tackled. He said, call it what it is. He didn't even hesitate. He said they were getting tackled. Jayshon Barham coming around the edge when he was on the right side there. I think it was the third quarter. That was absolutely absurd. So I guess it is what it is, and you have to play above it. They did, to their credit. Give them credit. Special teams, again, a little bit iffy with one exception. Dominic Zavada, the play of the game, the 56-yard field goal that I wish they would have tried against Oklahoma in hindsight, right? Because you know what? You're taking a chance there on giving field position, but you can't play scared, especially when you got a weapon like that. If they don't make that kick at 17-all, Nebraska's got the ball like at the 40-yard line and has the momentum, but what a stud kick that was.
Yeah, it's good to see him back. And I of course, that first field goal, I was like, oh boy, here we go. Is this guy in a slump or not? And he just drills it. So I'm just going to assume he's going to make them all from here on in, Balas. The one glaring problem I see in our special teams, our punt return team, they've got to figure out a way to field and catch the football.
Yep.
I don't know if we're just misaligned, if we're not scouting these opposing punters. It seems like we're nowhere close to catching the football with any regularity. The ball's on the ground, bouncing around. Come on, that's got to be fixed. It's costing us field position in big chunks.
Yep. I will say that Australian punter, he can kick with both legs. And I think one time he was running one way and then he turned around and kicked it the other way. So, but Morgan's got to be better. And Biff Poggi.
I'll give you the Australian rules punter guy.
Yeah.
Australian rules, whatever they do when you score a touchdown in the Australian football, whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what about the other teams we've played?
Right. 100%. It needs to be better. Biff Poggi said that a couple weeks ago. He said, we absolutely need to be better in that area. He said, it's not a good look when you've got your own guy creaming your return guy when he catches the ball, and the other times he's not stopping, not catching the ball. And I'll tell you what, there was another one too on a punt where Bryson Cusdell makes a shoestring tackle, or the guy's still running in coverage. So JB Brown's group has to be better. I don't like calling guys out by name, but that group has got to be better at this point because hidden yardage in games like that against a better opponent, you go to USC and you pull that crap, that ain't going to fly. So we'll see what happens. So Doug Skene, I appreciate your time, man. We will do this again next week. And sorry it's a little bit later this week, guys, but we will be back at it in a couple of weeks. We'll probably take a bye week off so that Skene can wash his golf clubs and put his yacht away or something like that. But appreciate you being with me.
All right, go Blue.